This week we get a lot of gospel passage to consider. It's Palm Sunday, it's the start of Holy Week, and we have not one but two gospels and the longest gospel of the entire year today. All right, so the Mass starts with the reading of Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem with shouts of joy and acclamation and people laying their coats down in front of him. And then by the time we get to that long gospel, things have changed. People aren't as excited about Jesus. We've got the religious leaders actively trying to kill him, and they succeed in doing that with the help of the crowd pressuring Pontius Pilate. There's a lot of story here, and this is a lot of the stuff. It's the high point of the faith, but it's a lot of the stuff we don't focus on and reflect on a whole lot throughout the year. So it's a lot to take in at one time. I would encourage you to consider, as you're reading these Gospels at home and hearing them proclaimed at Mass, to try to consider, of all these characters that we're going to be introduced to today and this week, who do we feel most like? Who resonates most with us in our own hearts, right? Are we like that woman with the perfumed oil? We're willing to do extravagant, exaggerated things to show our love for God. Because she, in some sense, the apostles get mad at her, right? Some of them do. She wasted a ton of valuable stuff by dumping this perfumed oil on Jesus' feet. So are we willing to do something ridiculous for God? Are we a little bit more like Judas, who outright betrays Jesus, even with a kiss? Right? Do we deny Jesus with our actions, with our words, and then go ahead and receive communion anyhow? Or do we just outright deny Jesus in public? Are we a little bit more like Peter, maybe, who behind closed doors is full of zeal and vigor, and Lord, I'm willing to die with you, but when we're out in public, and the gospel says a little girl points out to him, hey, you're one of his followers. Peter's like, I don't even know the guy. So do we have that struggle within us of, I want to follow Jesus, but I don't like the public pressure of doing it or public perception? Are we a bit like Peter? Are we a bit like the chief priest, where we are just convinced that we know God and the way that he acts to the point that we can't even recognize him when he's standing right in front of us? Are we like those false witnesses in that kangaroo court with those chief priests, making up stuff about Jesus that's not even real, and just spinning falsehoods out there about Jesus, saying Jesus did this, Jesus did that, Jesus is like this, Jesus is like that? Do we say that with our words or our actions, give a false witness to who Jesus actually is? Are we like those soldiers who crucified Jesus, who were just doing their jobs, even when it's unjust to do so? We're just going along, doing what we're supposed to do because it's what my boss said, or it's what so-and-so said, and not thinking about, this isn't right. Are we like that one soldier at the very end, the centurion, who recognizes when Jesus dies, truly this was the Son of God? Are we a bit like that Simon of Cyrene, who is forced to help Jesus carry his cross? It says that they pressed him into it. He didn't choose it. He didn't want to do it. He was forced by those very soldiers to carry Jesus' cross. Do we carry our own crosses reluctantly, day in and day out, or do we embrace the opportunity to be so close to Jesus that we're helping him carry his cross? Are we like those who stood by, those good and holy people who recognized they couldn't do anything to stop a Roman crucifixion? There's no way they're going to stop the chief priests from pushing this thing forward. They can't stop the mob. All they can do is be close to Jesus. Mary Magdalene, the other Mary, Salome, Joseph of Arimathea, who just did what they could, be as close to Jesus as possible, to essentially give him moral support as he's going through this very difficult time, to bury him in your own tomb as Joseph of Arimathea did. Of all these characters and all these different ways of relating to Jesus that show up in this very long gospel passage here, who resonates the most with you and why?